Hey everybody, ignore that phone call. Hey everyone. I am here on the live stream. Here, Allegra Jackson, you guys know me, and I'm with Claudine today. As a, to be honest, beta testing host myself, and also just being in the whole process of looking at this beta testing, it is absolutely incredible. And we want you all to just kind of tune in and be a part of the live streams as we do them. This is the first one that the owner of, to be honest, Allegra Jackson, my mother, y'all, like shout out. She has created an amazing opportunity for us to produce relationships, right, in a very fun way. So let's talk about that. Claudine, if you don't mind, introduce yourself and who you are, and then we'll get into the experience.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Claudine, and I am sorority sisters with Miss Allegra Jackson. She's actually a charter member of my chapter, so whoop, whoop, shout out to charter members. And yeah, so I basically got introduced to the concept of beta testing because we did the tea around the town tour in Atlanta in May, and towards the end of the tour, Allegra brought out the game and started asking questions. And it took our conversation at the table from, generic of like, oh, what are your kids into? Or what's the weather been like? To actually really getting to know each person at our table. So from then I was like, oh, this game is dope. Like, you should definitely, like push this thing. So then she reached out and asked me to beta test. And I said, of course I would. And so I got my crew together. They're also Deltas from my grad chapter, GCAC. And so a bunch of us got together. We had a couple of tequila drinks and a charcuterie board, and we made it a vibe. And then we also played the game as well. So.
Well, we know when the Deltas come through, it's going to be a vibe, okay? I've been in plenty of your events. I've been in plenty of the Delta events and fundraisers and things because, of course, my mother is the Delta, like you said. I am glad that you were all able at one of your events, because you guys are community sisterhood. We're able to get to know each other better with the game. I'm wondering what really stood out for you when you did your beta testing session. Let's talk about some of the highlights. Let's just run through it. What happened when you actually did the beta testing yourself?
Okay, so when I read the questions, I think the first question I read, and I can't remember it verbatim, but it stands out because it was, what is something that you're ashamed of that you've done in the past that you still carry today? Something of that sort. And so what I like about the questions is you have to think about it, right? Because most of us aren't just walking around with things that we're ashamed of on the top of our brains, but we thought about each question, we answered them with intentionality, we were also transparent as well. And the card game that I had was the crew. So that one I felt was very appropriate because we're friends, we hang out, we talk about deep things, we support each other as sisters, and we get very personal. So I felt that the cards itself, it wasn't one that I would say was crossing the line, like, oh, I don't want to say that with them here because I don't really know them like that. I don't want them to judge me, right? So I think we all loved the questions. We thought although they were written in a very simple way, they were still deep questions. Like you really had to think about them. And so one of the issues that we had was we were supposed to be using the timer, and at some parts, and I'm the host, but we got so into the dialogue that sometimes the next person would go, and then once they say, to be honest, I would forget to flip the timer. So I think the timer thing, we just kept going, and the conversation just flowed so well that I think like towards the end, we kind of ditched the timer because we wanted to just talk, and it was that engaging. So I mean, we had a lot of highlights. We had moments where we did have to hug each other and say, I'm sorry that you're one of the questions was about fear. What's your biggest fear and why? And obviously I'm not verbatim with these, but I'm just going off of what I'm recalling from the game. And so in talking about that and hearing each other's fears, like that was important for us to know as sisters. That was important for us to know as friends, because then we can support each other in a deeper way than just, surface level type relationships. So, we hugged each other, we consoled each other in times where, we were transparent, especially the question about, something that you've done that you're ashamed of, we've kind of, so it turned into almost getting to know each other, but still very therapeutic in a sense. And we played for a while. We were playing for like maybe an hour and a half or more. So we were just kind of going with it. But I will say that if I'm to say one downside, I didn't follow the instructions with the timer because it it would be tough to tell people time's up because it was just so authentic and I didn't want to interrupt, like that, the authenticity and the transparency by saying, hey, your time's up. So I have to figure out a better way to incorporate that. As because I definitely plan to play this game some more. So I have to figure out a way to incorporate that into it. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. It wasn't too long.
Yeah, it did. That was powerful. There's so
Yeah.
many. I have also myself hosted a few events with the beta testing, and I did the general questions.
Okay.
So you were able to do a deck that I don't think anyone else has been able to do the crew version. So it's good
Oh
to
wow.
hear.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, because I
it's
think
really,
the one we did on the bus tour was general. I think so because that one had more things about like career. So we learned a lot about like what motivated us in our careers and things like that, or things that we felt like held us back. But this one was definitely all the questions. Like I said, they were written very like in a simple way for you
Mhm.
to understand. But I like that they were general in a sense, like because they weren't leading you to a specific answer. You
Yeah.
basically thought about it, and whatever you identified with in that moment, that was your response. And so that was what I really loved about the way the questions were tailored. I thought they were excellent, the ones that we went over.
Now you didn't use a timer really because it kind of got in the way, you said, and it sounded like the relationships that you guys already had were able to be empowered and increase in measure just by asking each other simple questions.
Yeah.
I love that because for me, I think that relationships need to be nurtured, right?
Yes.
So it's a
Absolutely.
great
Absolutely.
way to just have
Yeah.
fun. And that, for those of you who are listening and tuning in, especially on the replay, I want you all to realize that what we're talking about is one version of the To Be Honest card game. It's still in beta. And so we have beta testers all over now. Claudine is one of the most recent beta testers. And, I agree with you. Like when I did the game, I'm going to be very transparent. I did not use the timer at all. I was not even
Okay.
thinking about using the timer. And I made that very clear, in my feedback that I already in my mind did not want any limitations. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the whole purpose of us really getting into the groups and talking to people and seeing where their head is at, because I love how you were able to identify, like, okay, this is something that people need time to get out and express and talk,
Yes.
right? Some
Yes.
people don't have
Yes.
these spaces to talk in.
Yes. I agree. I agree. I personally don't think the game needs the timer unless it's in a setting where I think if you're doing an icebreaker type setting, um, and I've only beta tested the crew, so I'm not sure if all the other questions, but I think if you're doing icebreakers that you just kind of
Mhm.
loosen things up, if you're meeting new people, that's different. But I think for people that you already know,
Mhm.
I think the timer can be a hindrance to the game because then someone may leave feeling like, oh man, I didn't even get my full thought out. You know what I mean? And I know it said in the rules that we could extend it by a minute. If
Mhm.
everyone's okay with that, that we could do that. But I think to go around the room and say, hey, can we extend by a minute? I think automatically everybody's going to say yes. Like I
Yeah.
can't see someone saying, no, we don't want to hear anymore what you got. You know, that's insensitive in itself. Like, girl, shut up. So I wouldn't expect that. But I definitely enjoyed the game. We all did. Like, I mean, I even have like one of the sisters that did it. She sent me a text and she was like, I absolutely loved that game, because I asked her to do the participant review, just
Wow.
to give some feedback. And her response was like, absolutely, I sure will. Like, I loved, like, we all left feeling very like full, empowered, supported. And like I said, we made it a thing. We had some drinks, we had some, some things to eat, and we like a game night basically was what we did. But yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
We
A
loved,
game night
loved,
with
loved, loved the game.
extra benefits. Like,
Yes, yes,
so I did
yes,
pull out
yes.
some general cards here, guys, so you guys can see
Okay,
what it looks like. Okay. And before we get off this live, if you don't mind, Claudine, I'll give everyone an
sure.
example of a question on a card, and we can
Okay,
give our honest opinion live on what our
sure.
answers are to that question, to be
Okay,
honest.
okay.
That way, the live stream audience gets to kind of see the behind the scenes a little bit. Because to
Yeah.
your point, um, if you are someone who is in community, like that's what you're talking about, Claudine, whether it's your social
Mm-hmm.
circles, your sorority, your spiritual communities, right? Like whatever it is, there has to be some level of getting to know you.
Yes.
Even in my experience, like I have a community and we have meetups all the time. And I use,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, in every meetup now, because
Yeah.
we don't know each other yet. And this gives us a
Yeah.
way to be like, oh girl, I didn't know you like that. Now we
Yep.
can talk.
And you find out all the things you have in common. And then you can even make future plans off of that. Like, oh, you want to, that's on your bucket list. That's on my bucket list. Like, girl, we should do it together. And then before you know it, you've taken that one question into an actual real life simulation. Like, how like the activity gets out the group chat. You kind of move it
Yes, we
out
made
and
it out the
actually
group chat.
do
We
it.
made it out the group.
We made it out the group chat, and we're off doing that. So yeah, I definitely agree wholeheartedly with that, because I plan to play this with because we have like different groups, right? We have different cluster of friends, and I plan to play this also too, like like some of my girlfriends from college, because we're getting together for homecoming in a couple of months. So I'm definitely bringing the card to homecoming
You don't know if they the
to
same
see.
people. Because you got to. I'm
Oh,
just playing,
God.
y'all. So listen,
No.
we all have. I want to comment. There's a comment in the group here, in the live stream. Allegra, the owner of To Be Honest Card Game, says, "I agree. The timer should just be a reminder to make room for everyone to have a voice, but may not even be necessary." So listen, beta testers, pull up, and people who have played the game, pull up. Let us know what you think about that. I personally, like we said, we just see that there's more benefit where people get to really, really share without limits.
Totally agree
I
with you on
also,
that.
yeah, and I also want to pull out, anything when it comes down to anything that shocked you. Like, was there anything that happened? For me, I can share mine after you share yours, but I would love to
Okay.
hear.
Without saying what the answers were, there definitely were a couple of answers that shocked me, because I think we all have perceptions about like people and even our friends, right? Like, you have an idea of who this person is, what they would and wouldn't do. So when someone said, hey, I did X, Y, and Z, I was like, oh, you get down like that, girl? Like, I didn't know, like, because sometimes you view people, now that we're married and kids, you see them in this responsible light. And then when they talk about like previous situations, when they were younger, and you're like, oh, you was turning up for real. Okay, got it. So there were definitely a lot of shocking responses, which also made it interesting because there was no judgment, right? So we're all there. We're not judging. This is a safe space, and that was something that we all agreed on. Hey, we're in a safe space, and feel free to share. And so, because otherwise, if people are uptight about it and they're not sharing, then it makes the concept of To Be Honest not really relevant. And to touch on something else, sorry, and I'm going all over the place. I do
Tell 'em,
love the
girl.
fact that I love that you have to start off with to be honest, because that keeps you accountable. It kind of reels you back in. So once you start to say to be honest, it's almost like it's a trigger for you to actually be honest and not just kind of give a safe answer just to kind of get by. So I think that that's a great must have that we should keep in the game, is to start off each answer with to be honest, because that's what's bringing our transparency. That's what's bringing out our, us being vulnerable with each other. So um, definitely hands down, we need to keep that piece of it. But yeah, so that was my experience, and it's tough because I'm trying not to share people's personal responses in case they somehow see this live goes viral or whatever, and they see, they're like, oh shoot, I said that in confidence. So I'm kind of treading a fine line with that, but I think it definitely helps you to put into perspective that people have had past lives also, and not because someone is this way today doesn't mean that they don't have a testimony, doesn't mean that they didn't have, a checkered journey or, a tough past that they've had to work hard to overcome. But these questions, they're simple, but they're deep, y'all. Like it's weird to explain. Like they're not overly complex. They're not stuff that's, you know, multi-layered necessarily. But once you actually read it and think about it, it's a deep question that you really got to pull from yourself to answer, because you're like, what is my biggest fear? It's like, what do I fear? And we start to talk about those things, and so it's like I said, simple questions, but they're deep. Like all the ones we had were like deep. We had to really shell it out. So
I agree with you. And here's what I will say too, because we're going to tone it down. We have about 5 minutes to the end of the hour, and I want people to just get to know you at this point and get to know about your experience. But we hopefully will be able to come back again and talk about, some later experiences as you are continuing to do this journey. Because from this right now, and I have the cards. So guys, before we get off, we are going to ask a question so you know what we're talking about.
Okay. Yep.
And when you talk about the questions really making you think, I personally think that it's because most times people don't ask us those questions naturally, and we don't ask ourselves those questions. So it's just an intentional way to challenge ourselves to always be growing, or how some people say, are you 1% better than yesterday? Like, did you ask yourself? So let's be honest and let's tell them how the game is played. Okay. I have, the way I do it, just FYI, is I fan my cards out, y'all. So there's usually like a whole, you have an Uno stack of cards and you fan them out.
Oh, okay.
I fan them out, and then I let each person pick a card. But we're just going to pick one card this time, and we'll both answer. Which card do you think?
I'm gonna go with the middle. I'm gonna go with the middle card.
Okay. All right. So the middle card, the question is, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
That's tough. Where would I want to be? It's not the U.S.
Wait, to be honest.
To be honest, yes. To be honest, it's not the U.S. I think if I could live anywhere in the world, to be honest, it would be in the continent of Africa. Not the commonplace ones like Nigeria or Kenya or like Ghana, but Ethiopia. Like I would want to do something different. Or I know this one's becoming popular. Tanzania, actually. They have amazing beaches, just scenic. I would want to be someplace that I feel like I could connect to my culture, myself. I can learn more about. I've never been to Africa before, but it's definitely on my to-do list to hit different countries there. But I would say somewhere there, either between Ethiopia, or Tanzania, I would say. I feel like everybody else is kind of saturating Ghana. I mean, I know they got the year of the return. I'm not hating on it. I'm not hating
They
on
get
it. I
that
promise
money,
you.
girl.
I'm not. But I kind of just feel like I just would want to be a little bit more isolated, and not necessarily with the group. Like I don't know. It's weird, but I'm thinking one of those places would probably be a little bit more
Okay.
remote. And I'm from
Well,
Jamaica, and I grew up there for a little bit, so I'm good with the remote living. I'm good with all of that. I've done that as a kid. So
mhm.
I would probably want to pick there. But yeah,
Okay.
your turn.
Okay. I love your answer because, to be honest, the first thing that came to my mind was Africa. And I was like,
Okay,
but I ain't
okay,
been
good, 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 good.
there, right? So, to be honest, that was the first thought. But then my brain
Uh
started
huh.
triggering. Like, it was like, wait, but you ain't never been there and you don't even know if you like it. And then, so I actually started going down a rabbit hole while you were speaking, trying to search for the answer. And what really came up to me was, to be honest, I don't know where the place is, but I know that it has to be culturally diverse and it has to embrace entrepreneurship. It has
Yes.
to be a place where I can freely come and go, and things are locally accessible to me, like community shopping. And some of those things, like, when mom says Ghana, I'm like, yeah, I saw some places around there that simulate that. And so I think I'm not really set on a
Mm-hmm.
specific place exactly, but to be honest, if it was anywhere right now, the
Right.
first thing was like Africa. That's it. And like you said, it's somewhere in
Okay.
Africa. I just don't know where. Like, that's the only thing that
Don't know
comes up
where.
for me. I just don't know
Well,
where.
do you think that your response in terms of like the qualities, like you're saying you want something that's, there's some convenient shopping communities. Do you think basically you're trying to recreate your life here, but you want to plop it somewhere else rather than starting over? Like, is that
No,
something
girl.
that you
No,
feel like you're
because I
doing?
got
Okay,
people out
okay.
in these countries living the same life I'm talking about, but I just don't know what it look like for me. I know what it like for them.
Right,
Um,
right. True.
but to be honest, again, that is something to consider, right? Like, am I recreating a lifestyle that
Hmm.
would not be feasible in these other places? So that's something to think about. I just never really thought about this question. So
Yeah. I mean, because I do feel like, to be honest, you would have to, like, what came for me was where could I go that would put me out of my comfort zone, right? So I'm not necessarily recreating, the city life. Like, when I lived in New Jersey, it was like city and, close to New York City and all that. And then I moved to Georgia and it was different. And so I had to accept those differences. So then now with this question, it's kind of leading me to say, okay, well, how can I step out of my comfort zone, and where do I feel like I would like thrive? I know I like heat and I like water, so I'm trying to pick out the basic things.
this is
But yeah,
good
so
because and
yeah.
and our listen, Allegra number one over here, she said, great thought provoking question. Because it
Yes.
is.
And we can go
Now,
back, and honestly, we can go back. And that's what I'm saying with the timer. You see the
this is a
timer.
two. This is 2 points. So out of
Yeah.
out of these three cards, that's a 2 point card. Now
Yeah.
let's just give a live test real quick. Do we think this is a 2 point question, or should it be more?
I think a two is appropriate. And the reason why I would say a two is appropriate is because while it's thought provoking, it's still kind of surface level, right? It's not like one of those deep questions where you gotta, like, you can answer this depending on who you're with. You know what I'm saying? There's some questions you can't answer fully. You got to be with the right people to really say that. So I feel like where this is, I would definitely agree with the stance of a two. Still thought provoking, and we can still go back and forth, and and talk about it, but it's still very safe. Not all the questions are like, hey, where would you live? Some of the questions, like I was saying, they're deep questions, like, so yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's my
Okay. Well, listen, we can go on forever with this, but I do want to, like I said, I just want to give people an opportunity to see what it looks like a little bit behind the scenes. And also, if you're listening to the live stream and you want to experience To Be Honest yourself, you can always get early access to the card game right now. It is available for early access for those of you who are like, I want to know what y'all talking about. Let me get into this game. Now, you may not be able to fully play it yet because it is not actually in the market, right? But you can be an early participant. When it comes down to our beta testing, we have beta testers. Claudine, where are you located?
I'm in Grayson, Georgia.
Okay, so if you guys are like, oh my God, I really want to see what this game is about, maybe you need to reach out to our beta testers and see if they're in your local area. If you're in that area, reach out to Claudine and she can, see if you can join her in one of her beta testing sessions. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. You can reach out to me. And if you guys want to join any of our Win community events, we're beta testing at every event because this thing is helping us build great relationships. Before we get out of here, Claudine, is there anything that you would like to leave us with, words of wisdom or any final thoughts?
The only thing I would leave with, I think, I definitely highly recommend the game. I mean, highly. It will take your conversations from being very generic, very basic to, you really do get to know people and, what they want, what they aspire to be, what's on their agendas. It may not be something that's feasible for them right now, but they can still talk about it. Or another event, if not, talking about things that they want to do, they can also discuss things that they have done in the past. And it can be also I felt there was a therapeutic component as well. And I know that wasn't the intention of the card game, but we did get that. Because like I said, we gave each other hugs, we gave each other encouragement and support during the game. So it wasn't just like at the end, it was like, oh girl, let me give you a hug, like it was one of those. So I would definitely recommend the game. And again, if you want to play the game, whatever, you can definitely, reach out to me. This is it, y'all. You're gonna have some fun. You're gonna have a lot of fun.
Listen, get your healing. Y'all talking about healing and all these things. You can heal from this. This therapeutic approach is definitely on point. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Claudine, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Until next time.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Beta
everyone.
test on.